But we have allowed private interests to take control of our banking system and our government. And they have looted and robbed us blind. They have set up a world government to take over other nations using our funds and capital. They have used our name and our flag as their banner of all of their evil actions. And now we're hated the world over. They put in this Hollywood president to try to fool people. Robert, Gaylon Ross, Barack Obama, give me your take on him, and then whether or not you think this is it. Are they really getting ready to kill the dollar? All these big announcements from top economists, how the dollar's going to die. We're going to be like Argentina, trying to destroy confidence, trying to drive us into accepting, the bankers will fix it if you just do what they say. They've got a global government, a global carbon tax. All the stuff we got laughed at for over the decades is now just all openly being announced.
Well, I've got a chapter on what I call elite spies within our government, and Obama is surrounded by members of the elite, just like every president since Wilson. All of his top advisors are members of the Bilderbergs Council on Foreign Relations Trilateral Commission. So nothing's really going to change in the creation of the New World Order or the Global Union. And he's certainly a very articulate intelligent person, but I don't think you ever get into that position unless you sell your soul to Lucifer.
And it's so simple, and people get caught up. And in 4 years, when they put a Republican in, we're going to have to argue with these idiots that, hey, this is another puppet. What's your take on what's developing with the dollar from your research?
Well, I've got a graph in my book that shows the effects of money supply, and for the last 30, 40 years, it's been fairly flat, the M3 money supply. And in the last year, it's going up something like 200%. And so when the money supply goes up, that means that we're into hyperinflation. We'll be like Zimbabwe and Argentina. Zimbabwe, you have to take a wheelbarrow full of money to the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread. We're going to end up in that same road. Right now, our largest paper dollar, our paper bill is a $100 bill. Within 2 or 3 years, it could be a $10,000 bill. That's what happened to Argentina and to Zimbabwe.
And the establishment knows all of this is going to be rolled out in phases. That's why they openly admit Northcom and Homeland Security and the Patriot Act is for the anti-Federal Reserve protesters, for the veterans, for the gun owners. And so, again, they built this thing in the name of fighting al-Qaeda, but the whole time it was meant for us because they know we're not going to like becoming third world slaves.
Yeah, I saw a piece on my computer a couple of weeks ago about a British general that the reporter asked him, how many al-Qaeda have y'all killed? He says, 0. He says, how many al-Qaeda are trying to put us under? And he says, 0. There is no such thing as al-Qaeda. That's a term that they invented to create something to fight. Now, there are Taliban and
by the way, the Pentagon admits that. They say it was the name of the computer program in '79 to recruit and name all the mujahideen working for the CIA.
Right. And we created all that problem in Afghanistan to try to run the Russians out. And then when we finally got the Russians out, then these people turned on us.
There's been a 13-fold now, it grows, of any record of opium production. Heroin is everywhere now. And the BBC just admits, well, the U.S. and the British, we have to guard the opium or the Taliban will get it. The Taliban is there guarding it. We're shipping it out. Was it over oil or was it more over opium?
It was over 2 reasons. Afghanistan for 2 reasons. Number one, they needed to create a 48-inch gas pipeline and oil pipeline from the Caspian Sea area down to a saltwater port south and also into China. And these had to go through Afghanistan. And the Taliban would not permit it. And then the second reason is they 90% of the opium in the world is created there in Afghanistan, and the Taliban, it's against their religion for their own people to consume it, and so the production of poppies was outlawed by the Taliban and was headed to zero about the time we invaded Afghanistan, and from there on it went back up to normal production.
But just to be driving in my car listening to XM a few months ago, I already knew all this, but to hear him admit it, BBC spun it like, well, U.S. and British forces guard the poppies and production has gone up because if we don't let the farmers grow it, the Taliban will take back control and they will sell it. And that's always the rationale. That's how the CIA got involved in narcotics when it was OSS. Well, if we don't, the Nazis will do it. And no, the truth is it's just the mafia.
That's right. The Taliban is actually a mafia within Afghanistan. And they go around and control the farmers, and everything they do is controlled by the Taliban.
Got me wanting to cough now, too. We're having like a... It's funny, one person coughs, the other feels like they've got a cough.
Just like a yawn.
Absolutely. Hey, it would be nice to take a little snooze right now. We could just say nap time now and play some nice soft music for people. Robert, let's get into the master plan a little bit more and then into solutions.
Okay.
Studying this, what makes the globalists tick? Why do they enjoy doing horrible things to people? Why do they enjoy pushing eugenics? And what will the world look like if they're successful?
Well, you're a great example. You've presented a great example of what they're like. You snuck into the Bohemian Grove and you videoed the ceremony. You got some people that are involved in medieval thoughts, and this is done every day in their operations. They just happened to meet there at Bohemian Grove, and also I was really proud of you when you approached
David Gergen.
David Gergen, and he says he dishonors you or something like that.
He got mad, yeah.
Yeah, but it takes people like you.
Well, somebody had to do it, but the thing was, I didn't really believe they were doing that completely when I snuck in. I snuck in to see.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting there watching the ritual, and I thought, well, this maybe is like a play. But the old men around me were very agitated, breathing heavy. This was more religious than, going to Baptist church growing up and holy rollers, getting really excited and praying and, getting wild. This was religious rapture. I mean, exactly. They were really into this at certain points. That was
a formal ceremony. That was not a stage show. And that's just a micro example of what's going on throughout the world. And these people get involved in trafficking of drugs, trafficking of young children, trafficking of women throughout the world.
And it even comes out in Congress, and Rumsfeld says they're not going to get in trouble. We're going to let DynCorp do it. And then anywhere you walk into an Acorn, you go, I got 12-year-old sex slaves, and they go, great. I mean, that's how mainstream this is.
Yeah, and that was another great expose there where they snuck in or just walked in and pretended to be a prostitute and a pimp.
I've always told my listeners, get hidden cameras, go into any city council, any government group, any CPS, and these people are so lawless and so criminal. I mean, look, if you can steal kids with no due process all day, there's going to be something wrong with you.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, the few times I go to the Capitol, I catch bribery on tape. The government is so corrupt. It's like a rotten barn. You pull one plank off, there's termites anywhere you look.
That's right. And they try to keep it under wraps, but every now and then it'll come out. But then they put a spin on it, saying, "Well, no, that must be fiction. That doesn't really happen. That's not us." But we know it is.
Well, you've studied societies, how they go into these cycles. We're clearly going into a very decadent cycle. Can you describe what you, from your deep research and the other experts you talked to in an interview for your book, believe is going to happen, A, and B, get into what's happening with the dollar?
Okay, first of all, the the creation of the American Union was scheduled for January 1st, 2005, and Dick Cheney said that in a video that I have, and where David Rockefeller congratulated him for his talk. But he said we're on track to create the American Union, or they call it the Council of the Americas, by January 1st, 2005. He really meant the American Union. But
and by the way, on that same clip, he's so arrogant. He goes, "I didn't tell my constituents I was doing this," and they all laugh at us. It's real funny that he can do this on C-SPAN, knowing his constituents in Wyoming aren't watching C-SPAN.
That's right.
I mean, every meeting I watch of these guys now, they laugh at us. It's funny.